others. What happens when we don't have this grounding? Last month at a Falls Church synagogue, Christian Picciolini, a former neo-Nazi skinhead leader, told his story, how he fell into this extremist group and how, after much soul-searching, he was able to leave it and found an organization called Life After Hate. He said vulnerable, alienated youths, like he was, are searching for three things: identity, community, and purpose. These are basic human needs. Be for yourself. Know who you are. Feel that you belong, that your life has meaning. Ultimately, what these hate groups provide is hollow because they're built on closing your heart like a fist. Picciolini said that the ideology of these groups isn't important, whether it's neo-Nazis, KKK, ISIS, MS-13, whatever. He pointed the way to unfolding this fist. The only way to teach people that there's something to hate, he said, is to show them that there's something to love. How do we begin to do that? How do we be ourselves and also for others? Nigerian novelist Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie spoke about the danger of the single story. Show people as one thing over and over again, she said, and that is what they become. She continued, the single story creates stereotypes. The problem with stereotypes is not that they're untrue, but that they're incomplete. They make one story become the only story. The consequence of the single story, she said, is that it robs people of their dignity. It emphasizes how we are different rather than how we are similar. I like to think that we are all flowers with not just one, but many petals. We're trees with many leaves. We connect when our leaves or petals overlap. As Jews, or as Muslims, or as women, as mothers, as people whose families came here as immigrants, the list goes on. If you Google Danish video on diversity, you'll see a brief, amazing film showing how people whose identities have been put into traditional boxes are transformed when they are asked to group themselves in new ways. The boxes break down as they learn surprising things they have in common. Warmth and laughter spread spontaneously across their faces. There are smiles, hugs, and even a few tears. Open palms, open heart. How do we balance speaking truth to power, saying what needs to be said, with doing so in a way that those who need to hear it will listen? I am deeply moved by the Muslim posture of prayer. Palms open to receive, submitting to our sacred source. I learned that Islam literally means submission in this sense. That posture is one of honesty, sincerity, humility, openness, listening, compassion. You're conducting that energy, and that's where the power comes from. When people see you're not out to score points or push their buttons, that you're really listening to them, and then they'll listen to you. I have two stories that I'd like to share about this, but I'll save those till the Q&A period if there's time. I want at this point to share another brief story that happened right after 9/11. I wrote in my journal. Friday, we watched the service at the National Cathedral. Thank God they included an Islamic cleric as one of the speakers. A few minutes later, there was a procession toward the pulpit, altar boys in lacy white gowns carrying an imposing crucifix. At first, As a Jew, I was put off. I found the image divisive and alienating. This is not a Christian nation. What about the separation of church and state? As the camera zoomed in on the familiar carved wooden figure, I saw something I had never noticed before. A man with his arms wide open, chest thrust out, thrust forward, exposed. He assumed the same posture I had learned in a dance and yoga class to open the heart center. This pose is meant to facilitate receptivity, openness, to help one experience compassion, to help one connect with other people. We need these feelings now more than ever. I wrote in my journal then, and it's very true today. Lastly, the power of now. A few days ago, I went to the Kol Nidra service on the eve of Yom Kippur to chant a solemn prayer that, though weighted with tradition, had been incomprehensible to me in years past. From all vows, all promises, all oaths, release us. That's how the prayer goes. I thought of the Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who speaks of focusing on the present moment. In an interview after 9/11, he spoke of the challenge of maintaining openness in moments of fear and grief, of diffusing the bomb in our hearts and the hearts of those we fear and hate. More thoughts formed. Don't waste your energy worrying about what has already happened or things you have or haven't done. Release yourself from past deeds or influences that drove you to see things in a certain way or commit to certain actions. Start fresh. Each moment is a universe of infinite possibility. Each moment we have the chance to create a new reality. This gave and still gives me strength. Thank you.
Dr. Ahmad?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Allow me to greet you with the traditional Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. I've been asked to address two particular questions. And before I do, I want to make some general comments, put it in context. I agree with the comments that have been made already, and especially would like to put my comments in the framework of Professor Gregorian's observation that there's nothing in religion, especially in the Abrahamic religions, to cause conflict. What I've found is that where conflict exists, it is from religious identities as opposed to religious teachings. And when we talk about religious teachings, that actually we have our hands on a key that could resolve conflicts of all kinds, not just religious conflicts. And I will also agree that it's other kinds of conflicts that are being, if you will, hijacked by religion, or religion is being hijacked in the name of other conflicts in order to be used as a tool. But when it's hijacked, it's invariably religious identity that is hijacked. There might be a profession that there are religious teachings that are behind the animosity and the conflict, but they don't stand up to scrutiny. Those fallacies are easily exposed, and the context of Jewish-Muslim dialogue in particular, which is what we're talking about here tonight, I think would make a wonderful example. But one of the questions I was asked to address is, what are the obstacles experienced that prevent engagement with the other? And the answer to that question is quite simple. In every Jewish-Muslim dialogue that I've either participated in as a panelist or as an attendee or whatever, there was one issue that was not allowed to be discussed. And the reason, because the assumption that if we would allow discussion on that issue, it would totally unravel the positive attitude the interfaith dialogue is supposed to achieve. In one particular example, I think Jason was there, during the Q&A period, one of the questioners tried to ask a question about that and was pretty much ruled out of order, saying we're not to discuss that here tonight. Well, if I'm right that religious teachings are the key to resolving conflicts, then I think that that obstacle should be set aside and turned into an opportunity. I think we should approach the forbidden subject and to discuss it in the context of what do our respective religious teachings have to say about it. Not my identity, not my feeling of dispossession as a Palestinian, which is not to deny it, obviously it's real, nor the feelings of oppression and existential threat felt by the Jews, which is real, it's not an imagined thing. But the answer is not going to be brought about by silence. And in that sense, I think that the problem for us is maybe, maybe I guess this is an example of cynicism. I think it's cynical of people to think that you cannot address these problems in this way, or that it would be dangerous or cause a backlash or just have the opposite effect of what all people of goodwill would like to see accomplished. Especially, I think, in the current climate, this is the case. Because look how easily Jews and Muslims have come together to oppose the bigotry that has been leveled against one or another community. When there was the overturning of those Jewish graves, Muslims were very quick to come out and denounce it. And it was not, as it turned out, since it was not done by Muslims, this was not a self-defensive thing. Oh, we want to distance ourselves from that. We say, okay, this was done, it's actually apparently done by a Jew, but saying that, you cannot actually, we cannot approve of this. It's against our religion, and it doesn't matter who the victim is. The fact that someone has a different religious identity just doesn't change the fact that what happened was wrong. And the same thing when Muslims have been the victims. The Jewish community has come out quickly, sometimes the first community, to come out and denounce it. The current so-called Muslim ban. Even though it's not Jews who are the target, the Jewish community has been very, very outspoken in not only condemning the actions, but providing assistance, legal assistance and advice. So in this sense, and now I'm kind of getting into the second question, which is what are the successes we've experienced, the point I'm trying to make is that every time we deal with questions of religious teachings, I think we're on solid ground. And it's not that the religious teachings are identical. Actually, I think it's better than that. It's that they reinforce one another. When I attend an interfaith dialogue and I hear a Jewish person speak about charity, I will not only hear things that reinforce and echo what I believe as a Muslim, but I'll hear some stories that I haven't heard before, but that fit in well and fill in gaps and expand my understanding. And I hear similar statements from Jewish participants regarding what they hear. So that the opportunity to talk to one another about our religious teachings is an opportunity to not only understand the other better, and so to de-alienate them, but also to understand ourselves better. When we get together to oppose the forces that are trying to divide us, I think it's especially resonant with the idea of our religious teachings in that it echoes that those people who are trying to divide us are often irreverent, they're often arrogant, and they're often engaging in a kind of idolatry. Because they advance the interests of their group and make that which is the supreme value. then they are going against our religious teachings, which is that the supreme value is the divinity. And they're also, so that I say they're irreverent. And they're also arrogant, because they do not allow for the possibility that they could be wrong about anything. They take their stereotyping and, I can't resist, their fake news, and want to elevate it to the point of religious dogma. So, what are the experiences, the successes that I've had? Well, I rather than make a list, what I instead would say is what I think I find in common. In every case where I've engaged in an interfaith dialogue, again, whether as a speaker or as a participant, I have never, ever heard one person who participated at the end say, well, that didn't go well. The reaction is always positive. People always come out saying that they have learned something, that they now understand something better than they did before. And like I said, often something about themselves, not only about the other. And that for me is a cause of great hope. It means that, and remember, I'm talking about things that I want to criticize the framing because of the banned topic that was not allowed. But notwithstanding my criticism of the framing, it still was worthwhile. It was still worth to go into it and to put the effort, and people walked out saying that they were satisfied. In fact, sometimes they say we should do more of this. Obviously, JIDS is an example of that. So I do have hope, and my only disappointment is that we have limited ourselves, and I think we should remove the limits. I think we should expand the objectives, and we should say we're not just going to deal with the easy questions, we're going to deal with the hard questions, and we're going to do it with hope and with faith and without any cynicism. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is this open, or can you hear me well?
Bring it closer.
A little closer?
Move it closer.
Yeah, cameraman mostly.
Is that good enough? Yeah. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum. A greeting of peace in both our faith traditions, Islam and Judaism. I always end up writing hieroglyphics on a small sheet of paper, which I find hard to read afterwards. But I never stop doing that anyway. So in one of the conferences, somebody said, Dr. Khamis, by the way, can give you an extra sheet of paper, because he noticed this weird habit of mine, just so many hieroglyphics in one sheet. So good luck with reading that now. I'm so pleased to be here this afternoon. Oh, thank you. That's a big one. Is that a gift from my friend Kate? Thank you so much. That's an act of charity. Sadaqah. By the way, the word sadaqah is the same in both Hebrew and Arabic, which means charity. Yeah, I hope this joking time is not part of my 10 minutes. So I'm really pleased, as you can tell, to be with you this afternoon, because this is a very important topic for me, which is very dear and dear to my heart. I've been blessed to be here in this area, the Greater Washington area, for the last 10 years, a whole decade. And I've been blessed to be involved in Jewish-Muslim relations and Jewish-Muslim engagement in so many different groups and activities. And I found this to be a great source of inspiration and insight and enrichment for me, both professionally and personally. So this is a topic which is very much dear and dear to my heart. I told someone that the topic is going to be about the value of Jewish-Muslim engagement and why it's needed, and somebody shrugged their shoulders and said, but isn't that a given? When, well, really in reality it's not a given. Unfortunately, it's not a given. We still have the ambivalent people, we have the skeptics, we have the critics, we have those who are even agnostic about the value or the importance of this kind of work. People will say, you know, like, really? Seriously? You're a member of what? Jewish-Muslim dialogue? I mean, why do you even do that? And, you know, you see other people who are so different from you, you're never going to get together, you know, they're not going to listen to you, you're not going to listen to them, you're not going to love each other. Like, okay, you know, hold it, you know, let's just have some kind of discussion about this and see why you have all of these thoughts and ideas, right? And that's not confined to any one group. These skeptics